Hi, this is Rich. Today I'm going to be checking the inside of my trolling motor. The last time I had it on the water, on the highest speed, it was making a screeching noise from time to time. So I thought I'd open it up and see what's going on in there. The trolling motor I have, it's a MotorGuide 1994. The model is a Brute. It's a 50-pound thrust, and it is on a gator mount on my Ranger boat. So let's open it up and see what's going on. Work on your motor, make sure you disconnect the power plug. This does not go through the fuse box on your boat because of the high amperage that's required. This is 1224 volt. So make sure you pull the plug, or else if you don't, if you get in here, you're going to be sorry, because you're going to short some wires in here and then you're going to burn the thing up. So before you do anything, make sure you pull that plug. On the front of my trolling motor is a small toolkit. It has this tool, which is used to remove the screw from the retaining screw from the trolling motor blade. Very handy. And there's the shear pin. And if you ever break off a shear pin, this kit, the back of it comes off, and you have two small additional shear pins that you can use. There's also, down inside of here, a retaining nut. In case this one falls in the water and sinks, you have a spare. So that's pretty handy dandy to have that in there. So the next thing to do is to remove the shear pin that's in here. And mine is fairly well stuck in there. It's got a little bend to it. So I need some extra tools to help me with that. So we have a punch and of course the good old hammer. Just rotate that around. And then, actually I didn't need to hammer, maybe so. It's gonna require. Okay, and then the pin comes out. So we have our shear pin out. And then you have, I'll move along with this. You have two screws in here, top and bottom. Those need to come out. Those are 5/16 SAE. And then these screws run the length of the trolling motor, so they go all the way up into the bullet nose up here. And we're going to take those out. And when we take those out, there's a small gasket that is right on the top of this, along with a stainless steel washer. And reassembling, this is a 40 to 50 inch pound to put these back on again. When we open this up and start cleaning it on the inside, there's a product that we're going to use anywhere that we have an electrical contact, and that's the CRC QD contact cleaner. This runs about $12, $13 over at Home Depot or Lowe's. It's a very good contact cleaner. I've used it for many, many years. So I highly recommend it. One thing you don't want to use when you're inside there is WD-40, because WD-40 does not dry. WD stands for water displacement. It is good for any place that you have rust or you've got water in there and you want to get it out to prevent any rust, but do not use it on electrical contacts anywhere. So we're not going to use the WD-40. We're going to use the CRC quick drying contact cleaner. When we take this apart, when we take these screws out, this front cap comes off pretty easy. Removing the armature on the inside takes more effort. It's difficult because there's two large magnets on the inside of this frame here. Also, when you take the armature out, you want to make sure that you look on the inside for washers and springs that are stuck to the magnets in there, because there's a washer that is on the shaft that does come off, and there's a spring that can come off. There's a spring on each of the brushes on the inside, so those can come off. So you want to make sure that you get those out of there before you start cleaning. And also, when you take this off, you've got wiring that comes down the tube here and connects into the back of this. So you want to be gentle with this. You don't want to force it and break those wires or knock off the insulation on them. That would be a bad thing. You don't want to use any tools to take the armature out of here. The armature is well built, and it can take a little bit of punishment, but what cannot take any punishment at all are the magnets in here. You can't pry, you can't use a hammer. You just want to use your hands to pull it out from here, and you can push on the shaft here to help take this entire armature out of here. But don't use any tools or you could damage it. So with the cap off and the shear pin out and the screws out, we took the cap, the nose cone off. It's over here, and when you put this back on, if you'll look inside the nose cone, you'll see that there's like a little quarter moon or something in here. It's kind of a guide, so when you put it in, if you keep the screws loose when you fish it through the entire motor there, when it comes out the other side, then this will help guide the screw into the threaded areas here. So just take note of that. So we're going to push from the back and pull from the front. You have to turn it just a little bit, rock it back and forth. And it comes out. Cleaned enough on the inside. I'm going to put a little drop of oil in there to lubricate that. The shaft, on the other hand, here is looking very dry, and I kind of think that might be the problem in here. Could be just the age of the motor. There's a lot of carbon on here from the brushes. And on the inside, you can see the brushes that are in there, so that's going to be fun getting this back in. But there's a lot of carbon. Let's see, where's my light? A lot of carbon in here. There. Let me show it from this way. So a lot of carbon in there that needs to be cleaned out. And that's what I'm going to be using that contact cleaner for. Let's see if I can get that light and can show you a little bit better. I did prop it up a little bit and put a 2x4 underneath here, so once you get this back part off, at least with the gator mount, it's wanting to drop down into the mount. So the wooden block there is to just hold it up to give me a little bit of extra clearance. Oh, I also see a spring in there, so that's interesting. I wonder what that came from. I found a washer a few minutes ago too, so I'll let you know what I found out and where it all goes. Okay, I've cleaned it all up in there with the CRC spray. And inside there, it's all nice and clean. That spring I found in there was for the brushes. It apparently popped out and got caught in the magnet down there. So I think that's all good. There is if you can just see it right here on the edge, there's a little black ring right there, and it looks good. I don't see any break on it. There's another one that's on the nose cap here. I have put just a tiny little bit of lithium grease down in here and on the tip of the, now I've forgotten what that thing is called. It's not what I said it was earlier. Just a little drop of white lithium right on the tip of the armature there. That's called an armature. Also on the shaft here, I've put some there. I've tried to be as sparing as possible. I don't see where there's been any water intrusion into the cavity of this thing, so everything looks okay in there. Of course, none of these parts are available. NLA no longer available. So I'm going to start putting it together now, and we will see what we shall see if I did it right. There's no instructions. One thing I was curious about, I found two of these little washers in here, and it looks like they're held in place by this little C-clip that's on there, and that goes against the back, way back in there on that. That's the rear exit for the shaft, if I can find a light here. And I put a little dab of lithium on that. Little spring was off of one of these. It goes in this little slot here, and then this goes on the end of that spring that holds it in place. Then I gotta see about getting that shaft back through there, and the brushes on the side of the armature. I think I'm having some kind of memory problems with that word, but it's an armature. So the armature has this here, and that's where those little brushes on each side have to go against that. And that's what I'm going to be looking for. So the springs, and there's two of those. That's those. One goes in there, and one goes in there, and then that little nub on the end of that brush goes inside of the spring, and same thing for this one. And then they get compressed against each of their sides, so the shaft goes through and ends up on that armature. I ordered some new gaskets from trollingmotorparts.com. So these are the larger two gaskets that go on the front and rear. So you got one set, one ring that goes on here, another that goes on here. In the back where the shaft comes out, there are these two gaskets, and then the little blue ones on here are the ones that go around these very long screws that go all the way to the front. So what I did to get the old gasket off of the back part is I was thinking that maybe I had to remove these two screws and take this plate out, and then I could get that out of the way. But there are tiny wires that, here's the edge of one right there by that red wire you can see that goes into the back. There's 3 connections on this thing, and you can see the coils that are in there inside this back portion. And I knew I was going to mess that up if I got into that, so I just put this plate back on, and what I did was I just stretched this gasket over the fin and then over the back part and back onto this again, and that replaced that gasket. Now I have to get the brushes back in place, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the spring back inside and put the brush in there, and then I've got this loop that I tie for to tie on my lures, and so this is going to slide on that. And it's difficult to see that fishing line. This is 12-pound test, but it's going to slide on this and tighten that down, and I'll show you that when I get done with it. And I'm going to do both of them like that, and then I get the back half installed with the armature in there, and just enough room to get my I've got a little piece of wire. This is some fishing wire that I use, some stainless steel. I'm going to hook that and then pull it and snap that line, and then I can pull the broken line out of there, and these brushes will be around the armature that goes inside of here. So that's what I'm going to do now. All right, I got my fishing line over there. Again, that's 12-pound test. You can see that little line going across here, and it does tuck down on this copper wire here. But you can see that both of them are get it to focus. Both of them are drawn into their whatever these things are, the holders. And now I'm going to push that shaft, the armature, into the hole back there through the magnets in here. And by the way, there is a little washer, I'm hoping it's just one, that was on the back side of this armature. So that's that little washer that fits on here, and that there's a C-ring that goes down here at this base that holds it in place, and that goes up once we go through the inside here. It'll go into that hole there, and then it'll come out the back here. And you want to make sure that this is clean inside of here. Those are very large magnets inside there. And the first time that I took this apart, that washer was, I looked all over the place, and then I found it inside there. It had actually come off and stuck to the magnets, and then there was one of these springs for the brushes was in there as well. So make sure you look inside there very well, flashlight and whatnot, and clean all the dirt out. And sometimes they're little pieces of, I'm assuming it's little pieces of broken magnet. So anyway, I'm going to put the armature in there, and then these little pieces of fishing line will stick out. This will be closed just enough where I can get that fishing line out of there, and I get my pocket knife or that metal little piece of wire that I showed you. It's a stainless steel wire that I use for making fishing lures, so it's pretty strong. And I should be able to reach in here and grab that line and break it, and then that'll let the brushes release and go onto the base of this armature down here. The case is back on again. I don't have anything tightened down. Here's my fishing line. There's 2 strands of it there, one for each one, and I'm going to pull those off, but I'm going to use both hands to do that. You can see the new gasket inside of there, so when I tighten this up, put these long screws back in, I'm going to torque it down. I have to go check, but it said, pretty sure, 40 to 50 inch-pounds. Make sure that's inch-pounds and not foot-pounds, or you'll strip the screws in the head, and I doubt that you can get that anymore either. Anyway, getting ready to do that. Make sure that the brushes are on the armature. I don't know what that part's called where the brushes ride, but you can see I've got it's just barely on there, about halfway, so I can reach in and pull these pieces of fishing line off. But you have to make sure that that's on there. Otherwise, you won't even be able to get the armature back in again. Okay, so that worked. I've put a little dab in the nose cone. I've replaced the ring, the gasket around the edge, and I've smeared just a little bit on the nose there, and then I'll put that on there. Now these little blue things go in here on these extra long screws in here to replace those old ones. There's a little stainless steel washer that's on there, and so that will come off, and then those new ones will go on, and that goes in here. Put those long screws in there with the new washers on them. Just make sure your gaskets are all aligned before you torque it down. I torqued mine to about 45, somewhere between 45 and 50 inch-pounds. I put my shear pin in there, and then and that rotates really nicely. So now I'm gonna put the retainer in, and we'll plug it up and we'll give it a go. We'll see how it works. Got it all plugged in, and we got the trolling motor on 24. This is a 12-24. Got it on 24, and make sure it's clear. Whoopee!